All right.
Derek, what allowed you guys to be so much more efficient offensively in this last game?
I think just finishing the drives helped everybody feel better about it. I thought the last few weeks we've been moving the ball well, and at times early on we moved it well in the second halves of games and things like that. But we finished our drives with touchdowns, and we connect on some big plays that helps too. But it just, when you finish in the red zone, whether you run them in, throw them in, it makes everybody feel better about when you get a lot of yards and move the ball.
Was that as much communication as execution, or?
Both. I felt that, guys, there's going to be times where I miss a throw, or we miss a catch, or we miss a block, or we miss a running lane, or whatever. That's football. That's going to happen. But I didn't think that there was many, if all, mental errors. And if we can limit that, now we're not beating ourselves. Then now we're competing and we're just trying to win the game.
Derek, how would you assess how the offensive line play has been the last couple of games, and do you feel like that's been a big reason why you've been able to operate and do what you need to do with this offense?
Yeah, I've always said that, my whole career. We're going to go as they go, and that's football. It's always one in the trenches, and our guys, I feel, have played really well the last several weeks, and I think that the better they play, it's going to allow us, AK, myself, it's going to allow everyone else, to play better as well. No, you're good. Go ahead. Please, stop me.
What's made them play better?
There's been a lot of moving parts this year, and anyone who's ever played offensive line, they would tell you. I wouldn't know. I was always one of the smaller kids, so I didn't get to. But they would always tell you that communication and being on the same page, seeing the same looks, us going in combination together, passing a game off, it's different with every guy. And so the more reps you can get together, with similar guys, similar bodies, that stuff just helps.
Dick, how much has Mike Thomas meant to this offense halfway through the season? Obviously, for the last 3 seasons, we hadn't seen a whole lot of Mike, but these first 8 games, he kind of looks like the Mike we're accustomed to seeing.
Yeah, I think he's shown what we saw in training camp. He was coming back off the injuries and the rehabs and all that, and Mike is, we've all been so happy with Mike. And what he's brought, his mindset that he's brought in the building. Everyone's just, super pleased with Mike and, the mentality that he has. And me and Mike talked, almost for sure after every game. There's things we think the same way. Hey, we got to do this, and this in practice this week. With the communication with me and Mike has been great. Like everybody in the building has said, they've just been so happy with the way he's come in and approached things, and he's been super productive for us.
What do you think that jumbo package you guys deploy can do for you as an offense? Does it set kind of a mentality or a physicality that you guys look at?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a lot of guys. That's the one thing about our offense is, we don't just do one thing. We can spread them out. We can bring in the big guys and do it that way. We can bring in certain personnel groups, make you think one thing, do another, and that goes back to the talent of the guys in that locker room. That we're able to do so many different things. And so, yeah, when we bring the big guys in, there's a physicality and there's an old school kind of football. Football has spread out so much, so some of the old school guys like myself, when you get back in those heavy formations, we have some experience there and we kind of like that.
You've done a good job spreading the ball around a lot this year. Is that something as a quarterback that you kind of have to, when you have this many playmakers on an offense, do you have to be conscious of, or does it just kind of happen naturally?
No, I kind of, like I told y'all when I came, we taught you guys, teaching me about the playmakers, and I said, look, I'm going to read plays out, and the ball, we're going to say, wow, he had a great game. And then the next week we're going to be, wow, he had a great game. What's wrong with this guy? What's wrong? Why can't we do? And I just said, like, just the way I play, man, I'm just going to spread them out and leave it up to the coaches to put guys in position, and hopefully I can read them all right and get it to the guy when they're supposed to get it and all those things. But that's just me playing quarterback. Like, if you guys want to get mad, go talk to them. But I'm going to read plays out and I'm going to throw it to where the ball should go. AK could have 12 catches. Mike, you could have 10 one time. You could get 3 in a row. You could, however it plays out, we have to be able to play that way. That way, as quarterback, you can be free in the decisions that you're making.
You guys had some momentum early in the year. Won the first 2, were way ahead in the third one. Just kind of mid-season, kind of getting on a little bit of a roll. Do you see that coming, or?
Well, I sure hope so. I like I said before the game last week, I thought we were getting better, and I still think there's room to improve, and I still think we're the guy's mindset is, yeah, cool, we won, awesome, how do we get better, And I think if we keep that hunger, the teams that I've been on, I was on a team where we had to win our last 3 or 4 games to go to the playoffs, and all the way leading up to that, what's wrong with this, what's doing this, and then boom, we get on a run right at the end, and everyone's happy at the end of the year, unless you win the last one, nobody's happy, and so, for us, I've seen so many times in this league, you just keep going through the process. It's a long season. It's not a short race. And everyone is in, this kind of process and mentality to get better as fast as they can, so you're playing your best at the end of the year. And so hopefully, that's we'll be one of those teams.
Kind of piggybacking on that, is it amazing to you the perception of you and the team on a week-to-week basis, how it changes?
I'm sure some of the young guys are probably shocked by it, but at this point in my career, I'm not shocked by it at all. I know who I am, I know what I'm capable of doing, and I'm extremely confident in that. And so we will always gladly take supporters, and anyone who wants to hate on us, we'll give them a thumbs up and say thank you. But my process is not going to change.
Is that, do you just kind of accept that's what the NFL is, that every win is a championship and every loss kind of the sky is falling, or do you kind of just kind of as a player not pay attention to that?
Well, you look over the years, really in the last, couple decades of professional football, it's like you hire a coach, if they don't win right away, they get rid of them. Do they get time to build their thing? Same thing with rookie quarterbacks. They come in, they don't show it right away, get rid of them. It's like, they cut OTAs, way more in half than they ever been. Training camp's shorter. Where's when do we get better at football? When does a coach get to put his plan and his process in? When does that get to develop? And I don't know what goes on in every building, but I just know the way that the league has been, we've just trained everyone's mind to be now. And so, for me, I've learned from Russell Westbrook and saying, he said some words I probably wouldn't say, but he just doesn't really care what anybody thinks anymore. And so I adapted that probably about 4 or 5 years ago, and it's been good for me.
Shahid came into the season saying he wanted to be a more all-around receiver after kind of focusing on one thing last year. Just from the time you worked with him, from OTAs to now, how have you seen that growth and development? Yeah, he definitely has some big plays. We don't want to. I want him to keep working, but I want him to keep working on those things he's really good at too. And he's shown to make the big plays, but he's also been someone throughout the season to show that he can run the routes, he can get in and out of breaks, he can make the tough catches, contested catches. Some fast guys, they can do one thing and that's it. Whereas Rashid, I've seen him work in his growth, and I'm so proud of the way he's worked, and I'm so proud of how hard he's worked and overcoming injuries earlier in his career, coming out of college, and then getting an opportunity, and now he's making the most of it. And so just really proud of him, because he's, as you guys know, he's smiling every time. He's super happy, he's joyful, and he works his butt off. So I'm proud of him. How much do you have to adjust as a quarterback when a guy can get down the field that fast? Yeah, so the post that I threw him, when I threw it, I was like, oh shoot, I overthrew it. And then it just hit him in stride, and I was like, everyone's like, great throw. And I was like, yeah, all right, yeah. He went and got that one. And so, for me, I've had, guys like Henry Ruggs, Zay Jones. I'm gonna stop naming guys because some of my fast friends will think I'm not talking about them. But, I've had guys where, there is a different level of you can put on a football and trust that they can get there. And he's one of those guys where you can let one rip and you can pretty much trust every time he's going to be there.
Can you talk about, you just referenced young quarterbacks in the league, and everybody wants, like Tyson Bagent, if he starts this week, I mean, an undrafted guy from a tiny school, and he's now in a major market as the quarterback. I know you were thrust in right away. Can you imagine kind of what he's dealing with right now? Oh, man. Yeah, I've been there 10 years ago. You're the young guy. You're just trying to prove yourself. Someone told me when I was young, one of the veterans, like, hey man, just keep your mouth shut, keep your head down and work. Just prove it to everybody. Prove that you can do this. And I don't know him well, but I'm sure that's what he's doing. Because he's playing really well. He's shown some things that he's shown some promise of what he can be and all those kind of things. And I think he's a good player. And so. Again, I wish him the best of luck, except this week. Any quarterback, I want them to have careers they always dreamed of, except when they play us, for sure. But yeah, everyone is so quick to, you lose the first 2 games and everyone starts getting their draft predictions ready. And if you're one of those 2 teams that have lost, they're taking a quarterback. You're like, let's finish the year first. Let's put the tape out there and let's figure that out before that stuff happens. So, to just generally talk about that point, I think,
I was thankful the Raiders didn't give up on me fast. I lost my first 10 games. They could have easily just said, yeah, that's it. They gave me a chance to develop and grow and learn, make mistakes, new coaches, and got to grow in that organization. That doesn't happen all the time anymore, but I'll always be thankful to them for that.
So just give the Raiders, speaking of the Raiders, they made a couple changes. Any thoughts on that or anything?
I just feel for them and their family. I've been through it, and this business is so tough that we forget the human side of things, and so, my heart is for Josh and Dave and, for my friends over there dealing with another change. I lost count how many coaches it was for me at that point, and there's another change for those guys to go through, and a new scheme to learn, a new philosophy to learn, and that doesn't make it easy as a player, but at the end of the day, nobody cares. We just keep it pushing. But I wish Dave and Josh the best, as they know, and I've told them, I wish them the absolute best. So to see that, it's hard. It breaks your heart for their families. But at the end of the day, it's a business, and they know that. They'll be fine. They'll move on. They'll have jobs in this league for sure.
Derek, now that you've been his teammate for a couple months, is there anything that's kind of surprised you about Taysom, or anything that's kind of opened your eyes about him after you got the chance to kind of see all the things?
Yes, the one thing I've been surprised about is with how he's so violent and angry the way he plays, but he's always smiling. So that's the one thing that surprised me. I thought he was just going to be some meathead, just tough, which he is tough. Angry, all the time in the game. Taysom is Taysom all the time, and so that was my surprise. But what I saw on the tape when I was studying, to come here and do all those what I saw was a dynamic player that obviously we know what he can do running the ball, but I saw something in the pass game where I was like, I really think that there's some things that I do well that I think you could do and we could do well together. And to see him kind of, step out and have some career days catching the ball and things like that, that's cool for me too, because, it lets me know that maybe I could be a scout one day,
Just looking back to Rashid for a second, obviously there's a lot of fast guys in the NFL, but it's often a bit more about how fast can you do complex things and how fast can you run a straight line, right? And is that something that kind of helps him stand apart, just play speed as opposed to, just straight line speed?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot of guys that are really fast, but when the ball's in there, they can't really adjust to it. And so they could be on that track. I've thrown to some guys that if they're on that track, if you throw it just inside, it's going to be incomplete. Or you throw it just over the top, he's a guy that can run that fast and still find the ball and go get to it. So the elusiveness and the flexibility he has in his hips and the way he can move and track the ball and judge it and still make those catches, I think is what's really impressive about him. The one Taysom threw him. The ability to be running that fast, stop, come back, make a play on that ball, it's really difficult, to do it. The way he made that play just shows you that he's not just a one-line guy, that he's a good receiver. He can move and make those kind of plays.
With Chicago, they're also going through some assistant upheaval, I guess. So you have an opponent with a new quarterback or a first-time starter, and then they're struggling in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. What is just from your experience, what is the danger maybe of, or what's tricky about playing a team in that situation?
Yeah, I never have looked at records. Obviously you're in the league, you know what guys are going through, but I don't look at records. I turn the tape on, and I just do my assessment the same way every single time. Because I've been there where you're like, oh, we're playing a team. Oh, that's their record. And then you turn the film on, you're like, oh, they're pretty good. And then they show up and they punch you in the mouth. Because you turn the tape on and you see talent, all over their defense. They're watching the offense. I'm watching the defense, and I see that defense fly around. They made a trade for another great pass rusher. They got good corners. The safeties or ball hawks, they fly around, really athletic nickel. The linebackers can run and hit, and very smart. The D-line, inside stout players. I play with Andrew. I know what he's about. Strong run, stuffer. And so if you don't bring it, in this league, you're going to get beat. And so our mindset is, to treat every game the same, no matter what someone's record is or what they're dealing with, because in this league, anyone can punch you in the mouth anytime.
Go get a jacket on.
Yeah, go inside. Yeah.
Thank you.